Hello and welcome to the fourth round of the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2020 season. We are in Belgium for our second online round of the season, which will feature all 20 cars on track simultaneously. My name is Justin Sutton, and joining me, it is, of course, Chris Buxton.
How I love this circuit, and so many people do. It is, of course, Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes Forest in Belgium. It is going to be magnificent. 20 of these magnificent roaring GT3s. Is going to be upsetting the nearby ears of Belgium. But here is the current standings. The Logitech pair up at the top. You have to have a surname beginning with K to lead the way this season. Eric Vizzi doing a great job to hang on to their coattails, but a lot of fighting going on. As you can see, tail end of the field as well. A lot of very close battling going on. Even right the way down to the Autoscoba pair that haven't had such a great start, but there is still plenty of points of battling available to these guys.
Yep, very close in the championship. In the team's championship, there's a big gap at the front between Logitech and Benzina. It is 39 points at the moment, but only 12 points down to Thrustmaster, 3 points further down to Lenovo, another 12 down to ESET, TP-Link, Dexfin, Big Shock, Mogul, and Nobe. So this was a big talking point last time out. Now, we thought that maybe, just maybe, there had been some sort of hardware issue, didn't we, Chris? We thought that there was maybe a brake failure or something like that. We're always very generous about that sort of thing. But in the end, the ESET driver of Thomas Koreny, because of that incident right there, Chris, he is going to be missing out on today's race, isn't he?
Yep, unfortunately so. Post-race adjudication and meetings and what have you found that was not as straightforward as we initially thought on this particular issue. Now, he's not the only one to carry penalties. We'll go through the top penalties in greater depth towards the end of this discussion. But yeah, sadly, this was a bit of a blemish on what was an outstanding race the last time out at Donington. It was so amazing. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, my initial thought was brake failure or some kind of hardware failure, but unfortunately, Thomas Koreny was found to be quite at fault, was given a one-race ban from this particular event, so he will not be representing ESET for this. His place will be taken by Simon Hertnecki, which we're glad to say. Also, Jan Sikero didn't get away with it, as mentioned. He's been given an official reprimand and 3-place penalty from that Donington round.
Yeah, he sure has. We saw that in the replay as well. Not as big of an incident, but also worth a penalty in the end.
This is where we are today. So it is the beautiful Spa-Francorchamps circuit. It is 4:30 in the afternoon, 7 kilometers, one of the longest circuits that the current racing circus goes to. Lovely, perfect racing conditions of 24 degrees track temperature, 21 degrees in the air. It is just magnificent. So let's take it away on the grid.
Yeah, it is Simon Kovacic that takes the pole position ahead of Stefanko, Vizzi, and Pastor. So that is Logitech on pole with Benzina in second, as it is in the championship. Then it's Mateja in the TP-Link in 5th position alongside Serotech in the ESET. Then it comes the two Pachata brothers, Lucas and David, in the Thrustmaster cars on the 4th row of the grid. Then comes Thomas Hora in the Big Shock, Martin Kostulik just inside the top 10, Stepanovsky just outside the top 10 in 11th position, alongside Simon Hertnecki, who takes over that ESET car today. Michael Blazek down in 13th position, not the greatest of qualifying for him, 1.4 off the pace. Peter Kujello starts alongside him. Then comes Pavel Reigl and Vakulchik in 16th position. Matej Koreny in 17th position in the other mogul car. He's alongside the Dexfin. And then the two Nobe cars bringing up the rear, both of them more than 2 seconds off the pace. But this is a very long lap, Chris. So that's why we're seeing such big gaps in the qualifying times, because it is just such a long circuit that if you are even 1% off of the pace, you are going to be quite a ways down in qualifying. But this is where the points matter as we prepare to go racing here from Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. And it is we are green, we are racing, and down towards the first corner we go. It looks like a great start, actually, for the Logitech and Benzina cars. I don't think they're going to be coming under too much pressure from the cars behind. A few side-by-side moments. The Mogul car getting alongside the Logitech car there as they come out of turn 1 and down towards Eau Rouge for the first time.
Oh, the symphony of roar from these Mercedes-Benz engine. I can't get enough of it. So then through Eau Rouge and up and over Raidillon for the first time in anger. and this is going to be the slipstreaming fest. Onto the camel straight, you can see there's going to be lots of side by side. Oh, that's someone with a slowdown penalty. That's going to hurt at this stage in the race, but of course, Corny up front is Kovacic, beg your pardon, up front. Corny, no, that would be wrong considering what we were talking about earlier. Kovacic up front, fending off Stefenko. Vizzy up to third. So the Benzina pair, second and third at the moment, doing what they can against the Logitech giant. That is Simon Kovacic. He's done brilliantly well. Oh, that's... Oh, dear, that's not good. That's Corny that's been involved in an incident with Jan Sikora from the Mogul and Autoscola Node cars. Oh, dear. It's so easy to do, though, up at Lake Com. You know, especially with the pack so condensed, that Mercedes looks like he's wriggling around. He's going to have a hard day limping that one all the way back to the pits. What a great shame for Jan Sikora.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, it is still a long race. We've got over 40 minutes of racing still to go in these Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 cars around this fantastic Spa circuit. It is still Kovacic leading the way with Stefenko and the other Benzina of Vizzy right behind as well. Vizzy doing a fantastic job. Had a fantastic race last time out at Donington and is looking to continue that momentum here today and is running in third position ahead of the TP Link Mateja. Lucas Pachada, by the way, the leading Thrustmaster car at the moment, having a fantastic start, fantastic opening lap to the start of this race, up already into the top 5 with his brother David Pachada down in 8th position, also gaining positions at the start. So it looks like a very good start. Oh, that's a big moment for Michael Blazek. Oh. And it looks like that's a Lenovo car stationary as well. Pastor heading back to the pits. He's going to have to get towed. He's going to have to get some repairs done. That is unfortunate for him, but Blazek as well getting caught up. Oh, the other Lenovo Legion car in the background there going for a bit of a spin as well. That's Pavel Reigl, who is going to lose a lot of positions, dropping well down the order as they round out that first lap. So seeing a few incidents on this opening lap, but not really any sort of dirty driving or anything like that, more just race incidents, I would say, although we don't know exactly what happened at the back to the Nobe cars and to Corony as well. We're not really sure what happened there. Maybe we'll get a replay of that in a little bit, but what we can say is it has been action-packed, no doubt about that.
Indeed, with only one lap complete, a lot of people have done a bit of exploration of the track limits. Oh dear, that's another slowdown penalty that's being enacted there. It's David Pachada in the Thrustmaster car. That's the problem with these slowdown warnings. If you get them this early in the race, they hurt. iRacing judges the slowdown penalty by your lap delta. And this early in the race, you don't really have one. So it puts a figure in there, and it's invariably very, very exaggerated. So you lose a lot of time. He's just lost another one to Zenol in the Dextrin car. He's continuing to have a fight with the Dextrin car. So here's a replay of what happened to Pastor. Coming down through Blanchimont. What's he done? Tail's gone loose, and that's going to be a straight accident into the wall. Oh dear. And there you go. That's the Mogul car that kind of panics. Well, you don't expect to see someone sideways stationary on the exit of Blanchimont, in fairness. That's a very fast part of the track. They've been flat out since Paul Frey, which is this corner here, where we've got the Dextrin car of the Kulchik side by side with... It's Kostelek in the TP-Link car. So a lovely three-way battle here going on between the pair of Dextrin cars. So Zenol leads this small train, Kostelek in the middle, Kulchik at the back. Also got to say, Hermecki, not bad. He qualified 12th, up into 10th in his first race back in this season. He was a solid runner last time out. He got on the podium on one occasion, I believe. So not a bad effort for his return to the series.
Yeah, this is a difficult group of drivers to just slot in for a race, and Hernecki doing a fantastic job in the top half. But, we have seen a few incidents which have sent people to the back, but, that's how you sometimes gain positions. It's just by keeping things pointing in the right direction, all of that kind of stuff. So, doing a fantastic job. Looking a little bit further back now at Kovarik in 17th position, riding behind Blazek, who is that car that we saw having that incident coming out of Blanchimont. I think he had his own incident, though. I think he spun just as a completely separate thing. I don't think he spun as a result of that Lenovo Legion car spinning at Blanchimont. I think he was already halfway into his spin when he saw that, and that's what happened to Pavel Reigl. We saw in the background a little bit earlier on. There we could see it in the foreground, though. Oh, we're getting very close between the Autoscola Nobe car and the Mogul car as they get into the braking zone into the Lake Home section, but they are going to have to remain nose to tail through there. Kovarik continues to lead the way. with the other mogul car of Corony actually bringing up the rear there. The two mogul cars and Nobe cars having a difficult race here today. It's worth pointing out. It's unfortunate for them, but again, there is still a lot of time still to go. Will we see pit stops in this race? Who knows? We've seen some various strategies and successful things as far as the strategy is concerned so far this season, so we're not quite sure about that. But looking a little bit further up the road, at the very front, it is Kovacic that is still leading the way now with a 1.5 second gap or thereabouts over Stefanko, but this is the battle for 4th position. Actually, really, this is the battle for 3rd position. Yeah, because it's about a gap between Stefanko and Vizzy, but then rather close between the Benzina TP Link Thrustmaster and Big Shot cars. Those 4 cars running very close for that final podium position. Will we see Hora trying to make a move here on Lucas Pichata for that 5th place position as we get into the braking zone for the bus stop chicane? It doesn't look like it. Mateja was very close to the back of Vizzy, actually, into the braking zone of that bus stop chicane. You can see as they make their way out of the acceleration zone and across the start-finish straight, it is rather close between them, as we can hear the thundering noise of these AMG V8s coming down the start-finish straight and into turn 1 once again. And it is still Kovacic that leads the way, extending the gap ever so slightly. But at this point, Chris, I would assume that he is probably going to be just working on maintaining gaps, that sort of thing.
Yeah, indeed. That's a beautiful cacophony of Mercedes-Benz. Look at that start from Gugela. What an excellent effort from, I think it was around 13th or so. Nicely done. Ooh, bit of door rubbing with the mogul car. But I think that's Blazek there in the 9 car. What an excellent start there. It looks like if your surname begins with K, you're in for a good day, it would seem, as Kovacic would certainly testify, as we are now on board with Hora in the Big Shot car, having a good battle with Lucas Pichata. We saw his brother David Pichata now down into 11th position with those slowdown warnings earlier on. Right ahead of them is Vizzy and Mateo. There is Blazek. So he's decided to return his car back to the pits. That you can see the rear wing is damaged. Spa is normally known for track limits more than these kind of incidents, but it's certainly taken its toll on Blazek, passed up the secret so far. But still plenty of time remaining, 36 and just over 36.5 minutes remaining of this race. Lovely pack being fought here, but Kovacic is just dancing off into the distance. He's very much unstoppable. I think we've kind of, in a way, I feel a little bit sorry for Martin Stefanko, his arch rival of old. You know, Michael Schmidl is not, is obviously not here. He's not part of the series, and still Stefanko is chasing someone. So, kind of feel a bit sorry for him. But now the thing with Spa is it's very much a slipstream fest because the right foot is planted for quite a lot of the lap. There's around about 40%-ish, depending on what vehicles you're driving, of course. In these GT3s, it's around about 40-ish% of the lap is just planted, is full throttle. So you've got to, this is more a race of strategy than it is about kind of raw pace and talent and things like that. So it needs a bit more thinking, needs a bit more strategy going on. Pit stops, I would be surprised if they don't pit, quite frankly. It's actually Jan Seeker has come out of the pits. He's done his repairs. He's actually come back on track. He's a couple of laps down, but it's always worth coming back out. You never know what is likely to happen. There is our race leader, just to remind you what he looks like. Kovacic doing a brilliant job. There is Stefanko in the Benzina car doing what he can to chase after him. He's dropped his teammate to a degree. Vizzy now playing rear gunner, actually, between himself and Mateja in the TP Link car. So Vizzy still doing what he can for Benzina Roland. And of course Martin Stefanko doing what he can to safeguard his teammate's position. I'm sure he's actually pushing to try and improve his own position, but he is achieving a rear gunner role nonetheless. But you know, every corner, every time we look at the gap between Kovacic and Stefanko, it's up a little bit, up a few hundreds, it's up a tenth. That's got to be very frustrating for Stefanko. But again, Kovacic doing an absolutely sterling job. But we've seen how look, as I was just about to say, that's how quickly a mistake and that's how costly a mistake is. Hora was in 5th, he was in 6th rather. He was chasing Lucas Pichata. One small mistake at the reverse, and 2 places down. He's now in a big old pack of cars with his teammate Stepanovsky, 9th down to about 12th or so. So, you know, Kovacic, if he makes a mistake, he will still be bounced upon.
Yeah, even down to 14th all the way actually is not that big of a gap. So that midfield section is a very dangerous part to be in, part of the track to be in. So that's definitely not ideal for Hora, but he is still in this race. He didn't pick up any damage that I saw, so he's not going to have to go in for repairs or anything like that. Won't continue to lose even more time as the race progresses as a result of any sort of damage. So that's great news for Hora and the Big Shock team, who are both running in the top 10. And I do wonder sometimes, for example, Stefanko and Vizzy running in 2nd and 3rd at the moment, that would, I believe, give them more points than any other team, even more than Logitech, who are currently running in 1st and 7th. I think Benzina would actually come home with more points than anybody else if they were to hold on to these positions. So I do wonder if Stefanko is pushing very, very hard, or if he really just wants to try and maintain this spot, because this would be an incredible haul of points for the Benzina Orlen team if they were to finish like this. And it's been a great season so far, aside from that one kind of hiccup from Vizzy at Daytona, but he's already quickly proved that that is not going to be an incident that he will be forever remembered for, already putting in fantastic results, going quite well here today at Spa, as we mentioned, within a couple of seconds of his world champion teammate of Martin Stefanko, not the current defending world champion, mind you, of VGP, but he still knows how to win a championship in VGP. So the fact that Vizzy is within that 2 seconds after the amount of racing that we've had is looking quite good. Now this is Stepanovsky coming under threat from Hurtnecki in the ESET car. He's going to have to do it around the outside. He's quite a bit later on the brakes, though, is Hurtnecki, around the outside into Lake Combe, gets the inside line for that left-hander. That was just a beautiful textbook maneuver by Hurtnecki in the ESET car, moving himself up into 9th position. So not only is he running around there in the top 10, he is actively gaining more positions here, Chris. That is an impressive performance.
That was a lovely textbook maneuver from Hurtnecki. Didn't panic, didn't have to do any mad wild corrections. He just committed to his line and made it work. Very nicely done from the returning driver for ESET. Just double checking the points, you are absolutely correct, Justin. If the race finished now, Benzina would gain 3 points, I think. Yes, they would gain 3 points over Logitech. Logitech would come away with 34, and Benzina would come away with 37. So every position is crucial, but Mattea for TB Link wanting to get into that podium position and upset the Benzina party a little bit, because if that swap round happened, they would come away level on points, both with 34, or they being Logitech and Benzina, I should say. Oops, the TB Link car look a little bit lively coming out of Blanchimont, but that's the view he's got. That's what he has to navigate around. I think there is a backmarker in there. That's the Sikora. I was wondering where he was. We saw the track map up earlier, which actually made me realise that Michael Blachik is back on track. Again, he's a lap down, but as I said earlier, it's always worth coming back on track. Unfortunately, Pastor's damage that much worse. We may not see the second Lenovo Legion car come back on track. Here is Stepanovsky under pressure again. That's from David Pajada, the second Thrustmaster car, as the Big Shot car's trying to make an outside manoeuvre around Hurtnecki in the ESET car. Whoa, that's going to be close. That's a lag moment there for the ESET car. Now, Hurtnecki's going to be under pressure now, because he's going to be slipstreamed all the way down the Kemmel Straight, through Eau Rouge, over Radion, and that's a very easy corner to get wrong. The car goes very light as you go over a crest. These cars are fairly weighty, but they can still get very lively up there at the top of Radion. Here we go. Is Stepanovsky going to try and repeat the move that Hurtnecki did a lap ago? No! He second-guessed himself. He went to commit to the move and then just hesitated that one brief moment, and Brachada was there to pounce. Nicely done, but no impact between them. Very well driven.
And that's the risk that you take when you try to make an overtake on somebody when you've got a car behind like that, is that you open yourself up for attack, and that's exactly what Pachada did in that Thrustmaster car. He saw the opportunity and he grabbed it with both hands. As you said, just that little bit of hesitation for Stepanovsky. It looked like he turned in a little early and then turned back out of it and then turned in again, and at that point his line was all messed up. He was quite a ways away from the apex, or anything that resembles an apex at that point, and unfortunately lost out on the position. But he is still in the battle. He's still within 1 second, of course, so we know he's got decent pace as well in that Big Shot car, so certainly he could involve himself in that battle for 9th position once again. We are starting to see some gaps starting to form. We do still have this battle for 3rd position going on between Vizzy and Mateja, with Vizzy leading the way, the second of the Benzina cars at the moment, holding on to that final podium position. And I don't think Blanchimont is quite flat out in these cars. I'm not entirely sure. It's been difficult to tell from the onboards sometimes with all the action going on and everything like that. But you know, these are not single-seater Formula hybrids or anything like that. These are not going to be going flat out through Eau Rouge, through Raidillon, through Blanchimont without any sort of drama. There is going to be some drama, absolutely, through corners that are oftentimes in the single-seaters, just, you know, flat out, fairly easy, straightforward sort of things. But in these AMG GT3 Mercedes-Benz cars, it is going to be a bit more of a challenge for these guys. Now, this is actually the battle that's going on just behind Stepanovsky, who just lost that 10th place position to David Pichata. This is between the 2 Dexman cars and the TP Link. Senol leading the way. This is what we saw earlier on, actually. Chris, you mentioned this earlier when we were watching this going on. This is Kostulik in the middle of a Dexfin sandwich, and it is as it was, so no changes of position between these 3 for just outside the top 10. So we haven't seen any moves from Kostulik just yet, no moves from Vakulchik either. But that very easily could change, especially as Stepanovsky is starting to hove into view. And I do wonder if Kostulik is maybe going to start to get a little bit, he's not going to be willing to hang around anymore now that he sees there's some more positions up the road. Then you might see him get a little bit desperate there. Ooh, and that was, oh yes, yeah, so that is confirmation actually that Blazek's spin at Blanchimont was indeed a totally separate incident compared to the spin ahead of him. So it was not related to the spin ahead of him. It was a separate incident that put Blazek down into 18th position and a lap down, which is very unfortunate for the Mogul driver, because we know, Chris, that he is easily a top 10, top 5, even podium driver.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great shame for Michael Blazek. You know, separate incident, just happens to be at the same point in Blanchimont. Oh, speaking of, there he is. That's he's had another incident at exactly the same place. It's a very smoky car. That, I think, engine has blown. I suspect he has hit the wall. Oh dear, oh dear. What a great shame. You are correct. It's not quite flat through Blanchimont. There is a little bit of a lift, but as we were on board with Mateja, he actually demonstrated that quite nicely. Little bit of a lift. You control the slide, but you're still, your nerves and your senses are all on edge, because if you lose the slide a little bit, you've got no chance of catching it. Ups, and that is Hora and Kujala coming together. A little bit of a tap on the inside of the chicane. Didn't quite see the beginning of that. Hopefully we'll get a replay of that in a little bit later on. That's cost a position, a little bit of time to the second Logitech car, but it continues. He wants to stay very clear of that almighty great pack behind him. Let's see the replay now. Now this is Michael Blazek. He's, I bet you he's lost the tail. Yeah, he's done exactly what put him in the wall last time, and he's hit almost the same segment of wall. Ooh. That's, but I think he hit it much harder that time around, and that is what has put Michael Blazek bashing into the pits, and I dare say probably out of this race.
Yep, yeah, it's unfortunate for Blazek, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be doing any better than 18th or 19th today. And in fact, he may end up doing worse than that potentially, as Pastor is still in the bits. I don't know if he's attempting to continue getting repairs done, but he could potentially still come back out here. We've got over 25.5 minutes still to go in this race. Actually, we're not even halfway distance as we look back up the road up at the battle for 3rd position. It is still Vizzy leading the way. Mateja, I imagine, getting rather sick and tired looking at the back end of that Benzina Orlen GT3 car. As they make their way through Puhan once again. Lovely corner, lovely bit of circuit, and using all of the curbing there at the entrance of the corner, a little bit of the inside curb as well too through the right-hander, getting onto the curbing through the left-hander as well too, and again at the exit as well. So these guys using all of the track that is available to them in order to try and put in those laps. You can see very, very similar lap times between these two drivers at the bottom of the screen. But that is to be expected considering they've been running pretty much nose to tail. I don't think the gap has been bigger than maybe 1 second is the biggest gap we've seen between these two drivers throughout the entirety of this race, so incredibly close. Meanwhile, they have really dropped the Thrustmaster of Pichata behind. Pretty significant gap now, as we're just going to see. This is the incident between the Big Shock and Logitech cars, or was it an incident, or was it just a situation of the Logitech car losing the back end on their own. You can see lots of room being given through that corner. Oh, and yep, that's a difficult one to say there, Chris. I would say for a lot of that corner, or for a lot of that chicane, the big shot car was entitled for the room, but I'm not sure at that point, because I think the Logitech really had pulled ahead quite a bit. So that was a bit of a lunge into the second part of that chicane by the big shot car, I think, there of Hora. But that's a tough one to judge on, I'd say.
Yeah, that one's not quite as clean cut as other incidents we've seen. I would say Hora was a little bit ambitious, as we see Vizzy going straight for that defensive line. He's not convinced Matteo's not going to have a crack at it. Very well defended from Vizzy there. He made his defensive maneuvers perfectly telegraphed, went over to the defensive line, didn't change until the braking zone. Very nicely driven. Yeah, I would say Hora was a little bit too ambitious trying to make the move from that far back on the second part of the chicane. Penalty worthy? Doubt it. Unless there was damage caused, and I wouldn't have thought so with such a light tap. Kujello will probably feel a bit aggrieved by it, but yeah, I'm not really so sure penalties warrant from that one. The stewards, I'm sure, will have analysed it by now and made any recommendations on alterations. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about, and is very prominent here for iRacing in particular here at Spa, is track limit penalties. Now, Spa is notorious for drivers struggling with track limit penalties. Now, there is a limit as to how many times they can go over the line. Oh, hello, Kovacic. Nice of you to join in the conversation with the fastest lap there. Now here, ironically, if you saw Vizzy actually just crossed over the line at Curve Porfray, on the exit of Stavlo coming into Curve Porfray. You are allowed to do it there. That doesn't incur a point, but a lot of the track does. You wander just a tiny bit too wide and you will get a single penalty point. If they exceed a particular amount of points, which in this league is 20, they are instantly disqualified. They vanish from the race. That's it. Job done. There's no coming back from it. Now, what we might see, as Matteo has chosen now to pretty much bang on halfway to serve a pit stop. I wouldn't be surprised if most, if not everybody, serves a pit stop at some point. Oops, that's it. Necki gone a little bit deep into the chicane. There goes the big shot guy in the background. Stepanovsky, I think it was, has gone in. Oh, Necki, you were lucky to defend that one, but David Bajada's going to have the inside line into the source. Yeah, Necki knew that one was done, but he'll be able to slipstream on his way back up. Now, Necki disappeared there. That was a lag moment, this being an online race, of course, but that happens. The car just vanishes when they exceed the track limit penalty amount. Now, what we might find is these guys are pushing like mad now, but if they start to get really close to that track limit penalty, we can't see it. We don't have access to that particular data, unfortunately, but they might choose to back off. If you start to see their lap times come down, it's not necessarily tyre wear or anything like that, it's just being cautious with the track penalty limit, as Necki's really brilliantly positioned himself to try and inside manoeuvre into late on, but well defended from Prashada in the Thrustmaster car. Absolutely brilliant stuff. He can drive an inside manoeuvre at Rivage, but it's not a particularly big braking zone down there. So he's also got to keep an eye behind him, because we just saw Senol in the Dexman car. There he is. He's got a big old crowd behind him. Kostalik and Vikulchik, I believe, is following. Yep, they are. So yeah, it's such a great pack, and we're over halfway in this race. 11 laps done, and still this lot are, what are they, 3 seconds apart at best?
Yep, something like, yeah, that actually less than 3 seconds, and that is from 8th all the way down to 12th, less than 3 seconds. So, yeah, that is extremely close, and they're doing a fantastic job. Hartnecki in particular, again, as we mentioned, he's filling in today. And doing an absolutely incredible job. It looks like he is going to score solid points for the ESAT team here, which they're going to be incredibly thankful for. But I don't want to diminish David Pichada's rise back up to 8th position, because remember, he dropped to outside the top 10. Now, he was helped a little bit by Stepanovsky coming into the pits, and who was the other car that came into? Mateja coming into the pits as well, too. So he is essentially in a net 10th right now, depending on what happens with Stepanovsky. He might be in a net 9th, actually. And Mateja actually could end up being ahead of Vizzy once all of this has shaken out. We've got Lucas Pichata in the Thrustmaster car, who has opted to come into the pits. Korony in the Mogul car is also into the pits. Oh, we got some more cars into the pits. Hurtnecki and Vakulchek, who were both in that 5-car battle for 8th position, they're both into the pits as well. So a few more cars coming into the pits now. I think we're at about half of the field has been into the pits at this point, with now just over 19 minutes to go in this race. And of course, remember, when we hit 0 on the clock, that means it is the final lap of the race. It doesn't mean that there is 1 lap to go, as we had with previous seasons when we were running a different game. So yeah, it's, as Chris mentioned, I did want to touch on this. It is unfortunate that we don't know the incidence levels that these guys are at, because boy, that would be super helpful to know if we start to see them slow down a little bit. And you know, we know because that is because they're actually getting close to that incident point limit. We don't receive information when they receive an incident point either, but we do know that there is a bit of variation from track to track. Some tracks are going to be very forgiving. Some tracks are not very forgiving. Some corners are very forgiving, and other corners are not very forgiving whatsoever. So, but I'm very glad that you pointed that out, Chris, because it is sort of a hidden battle that these drivers are having that the spectators don't know about.
Yeah, and the drivers get notified anytime they incur one of these incident points. They're notified immediately, so they know exactly where they stand. Which for some people is actually quite distracting. Just have this bing, you've overdone it. Bing, you've overdone it. So, I mean, you can argue, don't keep overdoing it. But yeah, that. I wanted to touch on that in case we see somebody suddenly slowing down. They wouldn't necessarily have to slow down drastically, but it would be noticeable. You know, they would add maybe a second and a half to their lap times. They'd still be flat out for the vast majority of the race, as in comes Stefenko. Top 2 are in.
And Kovacic, yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be battle of the pit stops. Vizzy's followed suit. They don't have a shared pit box. The pit box is decided on their qualifying position, so it's not a Formula 1 style. Someone has to queue. And look at the train coming in. Yeah, that's pretty much everyone that hasn't pitted yet is coming in now. So yeah, that's going to be a very busy pit lane. But they'll pretty much filter out unless they have a mistake in the pit. In the pit lane, it is possible to overshoot your pit box. It is possible to stop short. It is possible to speed in the pit lane as well. But again, we don't know what these guys are doing. That's Stefenko we're seeing getting underway. Kovacic, we believe, he's already gotten going. So they're going to filter out broadly in the position they filter in. But those have already stopped, and now, such as these two, Mateda and Prachada, are going to filter in amongst them. So this is going to be. It's going to really start to reform the sort of real racing order, if you like. Looks fairly standard. I wouldn't be surprised if that midfield battle resumes within the next few laps. Looking at Kujela, Prachada, Senol, they're still fairly close together. Yep, everybody has been in. Korony has been in the pits for quite a while. Blazek and Pastor, as we know. Stepanovsky, I think, has been in for a period of time, so we may not necessarily see them again. Jan Seeker is, of course, out of sorts with everybody else, being several laps down, but still pressing on nonetheless. Going to come home in potentially 16th position unless somebody else has another major incident. But here we see Matej in the TP Link car pressuring Prachada for what is now 4th position. So again, a very strong run for these two.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Matej that he's now battling with the Thrustmaster car rather than the Benzina car, but it's actually not a big gap between Matej and Vizzy, who are battling out for that 3rd place position, of course, in the first half of this race. But Matej did that. Oh, that's a scary moment. Matej did, of course, the early pit stop. He came in right about the halfway point. I think there was 22 minutes on the clock, and I have to say, I really liked that strategy call from the TP Link driver. I thought that was going to work out well, and I thought it was going to allow him to jump the Benzina of Vizzy, but in fact, it actually put him behind the Thrustmaster of Lucas Pichata, and now finds himself in 4th position. I don't know if that was a mistake in the pits that caused Matej to lose that position. Again, he's still within about 3 seconds of Vizzy, so he would have only lost maybe 2.5 seconds throughout that entire pit stop phase. And I just don't know if that's if that gap difference, if that difference in time now is a result of some sort of mistake in the pits by Matej, or if Vizzy really nailed his pit stop. or if or if Mateja caught some traffic after coming into the pits. I don't know the circumstances, but unfortunately for Mateja, that is now the battle for 4th rather than the battle for 3rd. However, the other Pichada brother, David Pichada, right onto the back of Kujela. That is for 8th position. Oh, Vakulchik going side by side with the Lenovo Legion car of Pavel Rigel. Rigel much later on the brakes into the bus stop chicane around the outside.
Well
incredible stuff. That is not something that you see every day, but that is a fantastic overtake for Rigel. Moves himself up into 12th position. Just over 14 minutes still to go in this race. And let's see, where else could Pavel Rigel go? I think he could potentially catch up to Kostulik, who you can actually see just heading down towards Eau Rouge, just at the other side of the screen. So he could possibly catch up to Kostulik. Senol, I think, is going to be a bit of a tall order. That's 8 seconds from Pavel Rigel. So great to see Pavel Rigel picking up 1 position. He might have 1 more that he can pick up here yet.
Could well be. I mean, Vakulchik trying an outside maneuver through Blanchimont was amazing in itself, and then suddenly Rigel's like, nope, I'm having this back in the chicane. Ooh, that got a little bit squiggly. Vakulchik didn't feel confident enough to commit to the inside line into Lecom. It's risky to do. You do have to trust the person you are overtaking, but you have to trust the fact that you'll slow the car down properly as well, and not just sail off into the dust into the middle of Lecom. Will Rigel catch up with Kostely? If he's going to have to fight Vakulchik this hard, I can't see it. Kostely would have to have been in a fight of his own to slow himself down, unless he bins it somewhere. I can't really see that Rigel is going to unless he manages to get away from Vakulchik. He needs to develop. It's around about 8/10 the slipstream, the effective slipstream range of these cars, give or take. So he'd have to build up more than that gap, and it's fairly clear to see he doesn't have that right now. As we see a replay, so Stepanovsky, what's he done? This is Blanchimont. Has he gone for a bit of an explore? Has he lost the tail, same as Blanchik did? Oh, yep, yes, he has. That's well, that bit of wall is kind of emulating what the Wall of Champions does in Canada somewhat. But that's another incident. That's another it's another bonnet that's been lost. Another engine dead. So, oh dear. That's another car that is not likely to continue to lap, unfortunately. But this battle is still got some legs on it yet. The Lenovo Legion car just can't quite shake free of the Dexfin car, but still some time to go. Less than 12 minutes remain.
Yep, not much time left to go in this race, so people are going to start getting more and more desperate as the time ticks down, as the laps tick down. Having a look at David Pichada, and I was right. I always have to be. I get excited every time I was right. I said he might be in a net 9th once the pit stops shake out, and that is exactly where he has fed out. He's got Senel in the Dexfin, not that far behind. I imagine Senel is going to be very keen to try and involve himself in this battle for 8th position, just to see if he can pick up some extra points, or he's going to be really hoping that Pichada and Kujela will start to battle side by side, possibly even come to blows. That would be fantastic for the Dexfin car in 10th position, because as we've mentioned, not a whole lot of time still to go in this race. We've seen some incredibly consistent lap times and very respectful driving from all of these guys. We have seen some mistakes, but not a ton of them. We've seen a handful or so. But to be expecting any sort of mistakes at this stage of the race with these larger size gaps, shall we say, that we're starting to see now, I think would be a bit foolish. So, yeah, I think guys are going to be pushing pretty hard to see if they can close up to anybody with the small amount of time still remaining. And this is what happened to Courtney in the Mogul car. And again, it's Blanchimont. It's a different wall. It's the right barrier this time rather than the left barrier, which is great because I was starting to concern myself with the strength of that wall on the left side coming out of Blanchimont. It's been hit so many times. I was starting to get worried that it might actually get damaged here at this point, but here we go. David Pichata, gets squeezed out by Peter Kujela. That's an interesting one. Before Blanchimont, he says, no, you're not going to be pulling alongside me. It is Thrustmaster versus Logitech. David Pichata dropping back, though, after that incident. A big lift, possibly even a dab of brakes after getting that door closed on him at that high speed coming out of Curve Paul Frere on the rundown towards Blanchimont. That's must have been a concerning moment for David Pichata, but I imagine he's got the speed. I think he's got the speed here, Chris, to make this overtake. It's just going to be a matter of when. 9.5 minutes to go. And I would say he's got enough time. He's got to be careful with this. And I would also say into Lake Home is going to be his best bet. Now, Kujela is almost certainly going to defend the inside line as they get into the braking zone here into Lake Home. So he's going to have to go around the outside, which is going to make things a little bit more difficult. But the other Thrustmaster car, the other Pichata brother, currently in 4th position, up from 5th at the beginning. Or I should say, since the pit stop phase, I should say, up into 4th position, and getting rather close to Vizzy, actually, I think. So this could become a 3-way battle for the final podium position. The top 2, meanwhile, they've really broken apart. It's 6.5 seconds between Kovacic and Stefanko, another 4.5 or thereabouts between Stefanko and his teammate.
Yeah, I don't envy Lucas Pichata right now.
Nope.
That is a very uncomfortable position. He can obviously see the podium right ahead of him. Oh, that's Vukotic and Hickey having beg your pardon. That's Vukotic and Kostalik having a continuing their effort. Nicely done. Side by side through Lake Hom is hard, and they have just managed to do it brilliantly well. Very well played between the Lenovo Legion and ESET cars. Very well driven. As we slightly loose out of them because courtesy of the trees. But yeah, Lucas Pichata's got a lot to deal with right now. Both Pichata brothers have actually got something to deal with, as David Pichata continuing his battle against the second Logitech car of Kujela, coming out of Paul Frey, out of Savalo through Paul Frey. Ooh, that's quite wide. The wall is closer than you think at that point. I have seen spontaneous combustion happen there before. Blanchimont, I wonder if Blanchimont translates into souvenirs, because there's quite a lot of Mercedes, second-hand Mercedes car parts down there right now. So the track marshals are probably enjoying that one. Oh wow, Kujela must be sweating buckets defending from that Thrustmaster car as they sweep through once again the chicane to complete another lap. Goodness me. But that's the thing, because these cars are so... They're obviously the same make. There are setup differences, they're personalised to the drivers themselves, but there's no major difference between the driving style is all that really separates them, and the skill of the driver. So they can't rely on performance. This is what I was saying earlier. This is why Pichata is finding it so difficult to get past Kujela. The main opportunity is coming up on slipstream through Kemmel Straight and banzai it into Lake Home. But again, it's not an easy move. It's not a done deal.
Couple of battles going on throughout the field at the moment. Looking back once again at Hurtnecki versus Reigl. Or actually, no, this is a new battle that's just developed, I believe. Pavel Reigl, I think, had just caught up to Hurtnecki, I think, last lap, and has been following him for quite a while now. Getting a little squirrely through Eau Rouge and over the top of Radion and picking up the slipstream now. Which way is the ESET driver going to go? Oh, he's drifting over to the left-hand side. That forces a late move from the Legion driver. Pavel Reigl will now get the inside line for Lake Home, and with that inside line, he just about closes the door there. I'd say that's firm but fair. He absolutely had he had the right to do that, I think. He was just about ahead, but I think it was by millimeters, and he closes the door. He's up into 13th position. He's got a 10-second gap to Vakulchik, so I don't think Pavel Reigl will be finding any more positions in this race with just under 6 minutes to go. Looking once again at the battle between the Logitech and Thrustmaster cars. The Thrustmaster cars are really getting a lot of screen time here today. Thrustmaster really getting their money's worth in terms of sponsorship with their two drivers, putting on some fantastic displays of racecraft here today. But now it is all down to David Pichata to try and pick up this 8th place position off of Peter Kujela in the Logitech car. 5.5 minutes to go. Let's see if he's going to get the door closed on him once again on the run down towards Blanchimont. He is starting to get closer and closer to the back of that Logitech car. Can't quite find a way through. Of course, you have that slight left-hand kink before Blanchimont. which kind of makes things a little bit difficult when it comes to pulling alongside a car into Blanchimont. You really need quite a bit of overspeed, or you need to be alongside before that slight left-hander. There is the other Logitech car of Kovacic currently leading the way now, almost 7 seconds the gap, and we resume the battle for 8th position. So we've got one Pachada brother on the attack for 8th position, the other Pachada brother on the attack for 3rd position. It's going to be a fantastic haul of points for them. At the moment, we've already spoken about Logitech and Benzina and the amount of points that they're going to be picking up here today, but also a great haul of points from Thrustmaster with both of their drivers in the top 10. TP-Link almost has 2 drivers in the top 10. Kostulik is about 4 seconds off of the top 10. Senol in the Dexfin car currently holding on to that final top 10 position. Let's see if Pachada is going to be close enough this time. No, it's about a car length or 2 as they get into the braking zone of Lake Home. Kajela continues to lead the way, but for how much longer? He's doing a fantastic job. As you mentioned, Chris, I'm sure he is sweating buckets because David Pachada is not making it easy for him.
No, he is not, and that will continue until the checkered flag falls, I have no doubt. But it's giving us some great racing. Oh, it's head necky again. He wants that position back. He's not able to commit to the line early enough. His defence, I thought, was a little late last time around, but it didn't matter as Rigel had the move covered on the inside of Lakecombe last time around. But head necky in the tyre tracks, moved out from the slipstream of Rigel on the way down to Rivage, but not enough speed to be able to make that one work. It's not enough run from Lakecombe to Rivage unless you absolutely throw it and hope that it sticks into Rivage. Very, very risky. Down towards Pouon again. There's no particular, there's a small braking zone there, but it's not enough to make a big difference. Is he going to be close enough for the final chicane? Not likely. He's going to probably want to shape up for a move into the chicane, but as you pointed out earlier, Justin, the second part of Blanchimont, that tighter left-hand part, they have to lift up for, makes a move into the chicane really, really hard, unless you've got a lot more speed than the guy ahead of you, but you do have quite a bit, you have to have quite a bit more speed. And I'm just looking at the rear wing of that ESET car, that is not straight. So yeah, that's why he's hurting in the corners. Might look like just a little bit of damage, but you know, there are a number of corners that you really need that kind of downforce, and that will be disrupting him. It will only be disrupting him a little bit, but as we were saying earlier, the performance difference is so, the differences are so minute, you need every little bit of advantage you can get.
Yeah, you can actually see him losing a little bit of time through Blanchimont there as he had to lift quite a bit more. Of course, being in the slipstream and carrying that aerodynamic damage as well just means he's that little bit less confident through the high-speed left-hander of Blanchimont, which is unfortunately hindering his ability to try and go on the attack into the bus stop chicane. It's already quite difficult, but with that aerodynamic damage, it's just making things even more difficult. This is the battle for the final podium position. This has been a bit of a slow burner, this one. We've seen some incredible driving, actually, I should say, from Vizzy, Lucas Pachada, and Mateja in the TP-Link car. All 3 of these guys have been nearly flawless throughout the entirety of this race. Remember, Lucas Pachada started from the 5th row of the grid, if I remember correctly. It was the 4th or 5th row of the grid. He was quite a ways down inside the top 10, and now finds himself battling for 3rd in this race. So it's been a fantastic race for him so far, but I'm sure he would love to try and pick up some extra points here off of Vizzy in that Benzina car up the road. But like I said, there's just been so few incidents. You could see the lap time differences between all 3 of these cars is less than 1/4 of a second. We're seeing very, very small, minute differences between all of these guys, and it's going to change. It's going to vary from lap to lap. We've only got 1 minute to go in this race before the checkered flag is going to come out, and that will denote the final lap of this race. And now that's going to depend on where Kovacic is, of course. And actually you can see Lucas Pachada on the left-hand side started from 7, so it was the 4th row of the grid. I was wrong, it wasn't the 5th row, it was the 4th row of the grid. So he's up 3 positions. Hora's up a couple of positions as well, too. Oh, here we resume. I like how we immediately cut back to the battle for 8th position, and David Pachada is sideways at over 200 kilometers per hour. That's the kind of day he's having.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you see how much he was turning the opposite direction? Turning right into a left-hander at that speed. I'm sorry, new trousers, please, in the second Thrustmaster car. That was absolutely outstanding. Well held by David Bricciardo. But yeah, final lap, as you can see on the overlay, Kovacic has just danced off into the sunset. We haven't seen him unless he has some dramatic incident on this lap. Then he is on course for yet another win. He has had the clean sweep so far this season, but there's still some battles to resolve. That third place battle is not done, and here it is. Vizzy has got himself a tiny bit of breathing space, throwing Lucas Bricciardo into the clutches of Mattia in the TP Link car, but one mistake is all it takes, as I very often say, for this entire pack to be shaken up. So we'll see how well these guys can hold the pressure. That was very wide, Eric. Keep it under control, but he's still holding on to this particular battle. At the top of the shot there, you can see Siratek and Horror having a fight for sixth position. They're pretty close. We've been watching Kujella and David Bricciardo as well, continuing their fight for eighth position. So yeah, there's still quite a lot of fighting to do in the closing stage of the race. There is a race leader. Well, I mean, what can you say? He's done so well once again. He's just been unchallenged.
Impressive stuff from Kovacic, and it is just a couple of corners, just a few corners to go for the Logitech driver as he makes his way through. That was a great example of hearing how much they need to lift. Now, of course, this is on low fuel and old tires, but one final braking zone for Kovacic before picking up the win here in Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. That is the maximum points for Simon Kovacic, and with the fastest lap, I believe, as well, it is going to be Martin Stefenko in the Benzina, who gets a very well-deserved second position. Not quite as quick as Kovacic, but his teammate Vizzy is going to come home in the final podium position. He is going to finish ahead of Lucas Bricciardo in the Thrustmaster car. Mateja, in the end, losing that fourth place position during the pit stop phases. Sirotech comes home as the lead ESET car in sixth position, with Hora pushing him all across the line, very close for sixth position. And it is going to be Peter Kujella that crosses the line in eighth position, ahead of David Bricciardo, who had that difficult start to the race, lost a number of positions, fought back inside the top 10. A fantastic result for him. A top 10 for the next fin driver of Senel Kostulik, just outside the top 10 in 11th position, followed by Vakulchik in 12th, Pavel Reigl in 13th position. But with Hurtnecki right behind him, is this actually going to be a change of position? He gave it everything into that final braking zone, but it is going to be Pavel Reigl that takes home that 13th place position ahead of Hurtnecki, who, again, it may only be 14th place, but Hurtnecki did a fantastic job. He really showed that he hasn't lost any speed or much speed to be finishing on the lead lap, about 1 minute behind after 45 minutes of racing. And here is Kovarik in 15th position in the Nobe car, the final of the cars that is running. We had a number of retirements, a number of difficult races here today, but Kovarik is going to pick up the points for 15th position. He is going to see the checkered flag and on the lead lap as well, which is, and you can see the excitement from him as well. But what a race we've had here from Belgium Spa.
The podium then, once again, the top spot belonging to Logitech and Simon Kovacic. Stefenko and Vizzy for Benzina rounding out the next two spots. Then Lucas Bricciardo fending off Lucas Mattea just about for fourth position. Then Sirotech, Hora, Kujella, Bricciardo, and Senel started 18th in position. What a great recovery for him. Kujella 14th as well. Well done the order. Wow. And finishing in the top 10. Well done. Kovacic did indeed get the fastest lap for Logitech, a bonus point for them. Then Kostulik coming home in 11th. Then Vakulchik 12, Reigl 13, Hurtnecki on his return in 14th position. Then Kovarik and Jan Sika are the last cars running 15th, 16th. And we lost Stepanovsky, Korny, Blazek and Pastor in that race.
Unfortunate for those guys, but that is the nature of the circuit. It is Simon Kovacic that continues to lead the way with 102 points, and it is now Eric Vizzy in second position with 68 points, only 3 points ahead of Peter Kujella, who is only 2 points ahead of Martin Stefenko. It's very, very close for second position, but who will be able to beat Simon Kovacic at the next race? At the moment, he is starting to break away. It is very, very close in that midfield, though. A couple of drivers are level on points. Several drivers actually level on points. Senel and Hora included in that. The Dexfin and Big Shock drivers, with Jan Sikora bringing up the rear and in 20th position with 15 championship points as it stands right now, but still lots of racing still to go in this season, lots of points still on offer. In the teams championship, this is how things are looking. Kovacic and Kujela leading the way, 167 points for Logitech, with Benzina on 131, 34 points behind. Thrustmaster are further 28 points behind after a solid result here today in Belgium, with both cars in the top 10. A difficult day today for Pastor, but Lenovo Legion still in 4th position. That is going to do it for today's race. I want to say a big thank you to my co-commentator Chris Buxton, to all of the production staff, to all of the drivers, and all of the viewers. Thanks, and good night.